I have in my hand here the Sexual Offences Act revised and simplified. And I think it's an organization such as your own that prints out and says, indecent act with a child jailed for not less than 10 years. Indecent act with an adult jails 50,000 shillings or both. These are the punishments. But the implementation, this is a wonderful document. Go back to the village. Half the people might not be able to read. So you're wasting your time publishing this kind of thing.
No, we're not, because one of the areas that we focus mostly on, and like I said in the beginning, is community empowerment. We work with communities. And so we go into communities and we carry out a series of awareness events where we try and break down to communities what is in the law for them. What protects them.
Kenya's a huge country.
Yes.
Which communities? Which focus? Because I asked you earlier on, I tried to lead you to that. You said you could have said we go to the coast, but you're going into communities. Which communities?
We work in mainly in informal settlements.
Right.
Yeah. So you're talking about your Kibiras, you're talking about your Madares, you're talking about, informal settlements.
Right. And so the understanding is that the village, uko nyumbani, the ancestral home is left untouched, by and large.
It's not left untouched because CREW is not the only NGO in Kenya.
Right.
And we work with network organizations. And so, for example, this document that you so rightly said is a wonderful document, is one that we would share within our networks and to organizations that are working in areas where we are not. And so that is how you work with smart networks to be able to benefit from each other's abilities and strong points.
Right, but I'm trying to find somebody to take the blame and the responsibility or to take the kudos for the success in eliminating these evils. You're an NGO. Has the government reneged on its responsibilities? Forget these bills of rights, rights of the children, Article 53, nothing's happening.
That's not true. Things are happening. And I'll give you an example. In 2010, CREW worked with the Teacher Service Commission around issues of teacher-student sexual violence, specifically around cases where teachers were abusing children. Now, CREW was also very instrumental in drafting the bill, the Sexual Offences Bill, which then became the Act.
Right, but now, my apprehension is about the drafting of bills. Words on paper have no particular appeal. What happened after the drafting of the bill,
after the drafting of the bill, now you have in your hand what then became the Act.
Right.
And we have now begun to see cases where criminal cases of a sexual offense are being tried and sentences passed in accordance with the Sexual Offences Act. So it is working. What we need to understand is that the passage of an act or having a policy in place will not necessarily translate to these cases disappearing.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
Like I said, it's a societal issue. So there are societal challenges which you have to contend with.
Right.
And so you have to work with a whole host of people, not one organization, not even the government can claim that it can do it on its own.
Right. May I take you back to this idea of the child, the image that we had earlier on? I am a very pretty 14-year-old girl, and the head teacher wants to have sex with me. I'm going back to the victim,
right?
Because here we're sensitizing me. What happens to the victims in all this? How is that child meant to know what to do? Because you said earlier, it's going to be unlikely that the child is going to say, Mum, there's this awful man making advances to me. So how do you sensitize the victim?
Okay, what we do is we've got programs where we work with school children. And like I said, we work in informal settlements.
Right, so you go into an informal, you'd say to the headmaster, I'm going to talk to your children.
Yes.
I see a measure of reluctance here.
There actually isn't any measure of reluctance. And you know why
the bad head teachers say, tell these girls that I'm not allowed to sort of, make passes at them.
And you know why there isn't any measure of reluctance? I'll take you back to the work that you did with the Teacher Service Commission. The Teacher Service Commission employs over 250,000 teachers and is responsible for teacher management. And so, in partnership with the Teacher Service Commission, that is our entry point into schools. And of course, knowing that there's an administrative hierarchy, if we come with the go-ahead from the Teacher Service Commission, it is very rare that we meet reluctance from a head teacher to come and try and talk about creating a safe school environment or a safe learning environment for children. Why? Because the Teacher Service Commission in 2010 passed Circular 3 of 2010, which we helped them draft, which specifically outlined measures that school administrations should take to prevent teacher-student sexual violence. So unless the head teacher is saying, I really don't care about this circular, which incidentally is part of his performance appraisal on his on how they've been implementing it, then really we don't meet with any sort of resistance. There is cautiousness, but not resistance.
Right. We also, I'm giving you access to our visual product. We ran a story recently about instances of teenage rape of girls in a particular part of Nairobi. Again, we won't stigmatize it because, as you say, it's not germane to one particular locale. But this is gang rape. Again, is crew part of that? You've dealt with teachers. Are you dealing with one-on-one peer group aggression?
Well, like I said, we work with men. And so in the informal settlements that we work with, we try and develop what we're calling male champions. These are men then who go out within their networks and sensitize other men around child rights, around women rights. And so it's a very...
But that's also, again, this is man talk. Surely, again, embedded somewhere within this culture is the role model man. And then we're meant to be tough and aggressive and abrasive toward our women. That is the index of our masculinity.
What you've actually described is what we call flawed masculinity, because this is
existent, man. It's just another adjective you could use.
It is existing, yes. Which is true, and it's very sad, because if you look at if you deconstruct that flawed masculinity, what do you find behind it?
Well, I'm just saying that in our culture, it's always been flawed. How many Kenyan cultures where the thing was, if you so many years back, 50 years back maybe still to this day, if you saw a pretty girl and quite fancied her, the thing was sort of to grab her by the scruff. If you managed to get her into your village, she was there. So we've always been flawed.
We've always been flawed. I totally agree. We've always been flawed.
But the subtext is this flawedness, to create a word, what made us African? Are we again aping Western ways?
That definitely has, and it's interesting that you should bring that up, because that brings in now the aspect of popular culture.
Popular culture,
exactly.
The idea of romantic love.
I don't think right now the idea of romantic love in popular culture would be to forcibly take a woman.
No, but I'm saying that's the imposition. We're trying to be more and more wazungu. That's why these issues have arisen.
But then that brings in another aspect, which is just that
I'm deliberately trying to provoke you. I mean, you know how the journalist said, the views expressed here
are entirely his own.
Exactly.
Let me say something about popular culture, John. And again, you alluded to the question when you asked me who's failing, whose responsibility is it? If, for example, you look at parents nowadays, who raises your child? It's the television. Most of the time, you're not at home to raise. How much time do you spend at the office? After the office, how much time do you spend out and about doing your own other things? Right. So who raises your child?
But this is very middle class. This is a very elitist evocation here. This is not the informal settlement.
And we're talking about popular culture now, which is why I said, let me speak a bit about...
We're going off at a tangent, a different grouping.
Exactly, a different grouping now.
And the problems exist within the middle class as well. They're not, again, germane
to... Exactly. Right. So even in the middle class, you have those issues. So your television is what is effectively raising your child. Now, if you're not monitoring what your child is watching, where are they going to get information about sexual reproductive health rights? Where are they going to get information about gender dynamics, how to, genders that relate to each other?
And
how does the man
faith could be an issue as well. I mean, we don't have time, but the idea there's popular culture, but there's also faith, religion. We're saying this kind of conduct is unacceptable. So we're not going to sit down and discuss sexual reproductive rights because there's a way to do this, and it's either un-Christian or un-Muslim or un-Hindi or un-something.
Yes, it's true, and that does present a challenge. And I think it is something that we still need to have a larger conversation about, how it is that the different sectors, faith-based organizations and even secular organizations, can work together if you put at the back of your mind that the common denominator here is the best interests of the child, how can we work together? What are you able to concede as a faith-based organization or a faith or a certain faith? What are we able to concede to come to a middle ground where the best interests of the child are what are being promoted?
Right. Okay. So you've been in the business now, I dare say, for 7 years. Mm-hmm. So we're looking forward to an ideal scenario. Mm-hmm. And I've been skeptical. Reassure me that my skepticism isn't well-founded for the years to come.
The skepticism is well-founded because just the fact that we have a new constitution does not magically make everything better. The fact that we have devolution does not magically make everything better. You've been able to see what are some of the teething problems that we have. That is not to say that there are not some silver linings. There are some advancements that have been made, but like I said earlier on, it is a responsibility of everybody. It's not just the government, it's not civil society, but parents as well, and the community at large. We all have a responsibility to ensure that the rights of children are promoted and are protected.
Right. Mike Wachira, women's and children's rights advocate, thank you very much for coming on the JSO interview.
Yes.